welcome back to Ask an Ecologist. My name is Suzanne Simpson, and I'm an ecologist with Bayou Land Conservancy in Houston, Texas. And ladies and gentlemen, this is our last Ask an Ecologist. That is, it's been, woof, I just had all the technical things fall. It's been a really unique year, which is why Ask an Ecologist even exists. It started whenever Bayou Land Conservancy started to work from home, and it has continued throughout the year. We're still working remotely for the most part. It has been such a pleasure to answer the questions that you guys have about nature and the natural world, and to see the passion that our viewership shares in this topic that we certainly have for it at Bayou Land Conservancy. So I thought to celebrate our last episode of the year, it would be appropriate to count down the top 5 wildlife stories of 2020, according to me. And some of these stories will have a local impact. Some of these stories will be statewide. Some are international, but they're all stories that caught my attention this year. A lot of them are stories that you asked about on Ask an Ecologist, and we'll give some updates. And they are really what formed the wildlife environmental zeitgeist in 2020. So let's take a look back. And I'm going to start number 5. I'm just going to go ahead and start out by cheating. Because this first story may not appear to have an immediate connection to wildlife, but my number 5 story is the Houston heat mapping project that took place here in Houston, Texas over the month of August. So what happened is about 80 volunteers divided up different segments of the city of Houston and took temperature and humidity data on a coordinated day in August, 3 times during that day, morning, afternoon, and night. And these efforts were led by Harris County Heat Watch team. The Nature Conservancy certainly played a part, and a lot of really talented researchers nationwide helped coordinate this effort. And the results of the Heat Watch project are in. They aren't being made public yet. I believe that will drop in 2021, but I've seen them and they're really, really interesting. So I want you to keep an eye out for those results in 2021. In the meantime, if you want to learn more, you can go to www.h3, the number 3, at.org, www.h3at.org, to stay updated with information on the heat mapping effort. But it was the largest community-led heat mapping effort ever to take place, and it took place right here in Houston. And those results are certainly going to have an impact on how our wildlife is able to manage living in a city that is going through a change in climate. So it'll be really interesting to see how those results are applied in our future management. Okay, number 4. Number 4 top wildlife story of 2020 happened just this month. The mountain lion attack that took place in Dallas, but turns out it really a mountain lion attack. So if you haven't heard about this, we haven't talked about it on Ask an Ecologist yet. A man was killed in the Dallas Metroplex, and the attack was initially attributed to a mountain lion, which would be the first confirmed mountain lion attack in Texas history, I think, or at least since we've been keeping that data. And so it was a huge story. The media absolutely blew up about it. And then a little while later, Texas Parks and Wildlife and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service both released a statement saying that there really was no evidence that this attack was from a mountain lion. Unfortunately, about 2 weeks after the story broke, a mountain lion that had been seen on some game cameras in the North Dallas area was hunted down and killed because of this story that broke about a mountain lion attack. And so, as of now, the really unfortunate cause of this death is unknown, but the state and national experts do not believe it to be attributed to a mountain lion. And this was actually the first mountain lion that had been confirmed in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex in about 2 decades. And now that mountain lion has been killed. So if there's anything that comes from this, I hope it is a long overdue realization that mountain lions in Texas as a species warrant some kind of protection. Other states where mountain lions occur have seasons or have bag limits on mountain lions, and those states actually have much more robust populations of mountain lions, but they still have harvesting limits on them. And in Texas, there is no harvesting limit, there is no season, it's open season on mountain lions. So I hope that this will spark some change and some interest in protecting that species, because it's about time that we showed some respect for our apex predators that help regulate our ecosystems. Okay, next. Number 3, biggest wildlife story of 2020 is, of course, the murder hornet story. We talked about this on Ask an Ecologist, and I made it clear that I felt like there are a lot more pressing wildlife issues in Texas than murder hornets, and that in all likelihood this wasn't going to impact us. So far, 6 months later, I'm still right, waiting, open to being proven wrong, but there was a murder hornet nest discovered in Washington state in the Pacific Northwest, which is where the murder hornets were originally discovered. The nest was vacuumed out by professionals, and they were able to get all of the bees out of there before they did any damage to the honeybee population. But that area will definitely be trapped for the next 3 years to make sure that all the murder hornets, the Asian giant hornets, are out there and are not going to affect any of the honeybee populations or the native bee populations. So it'll be interesting to see how this story develops in the next few years. But it was something that created just, amazing memes through the end of 2020. So it definitely deserves a place on this list. Okay, second biggest wildlife story of 2020 is the Central Park birder, which is another story that we chatted about on Ask an Ecologist, where Christian Cooper, a black man bird watching in Central Park, had the police called on him by a white woman, and it started all of these conversations. Inclusivity in the outdoors. It facilitated the genesis of Black Birders Week, which took place and started a lot of really important conversations about making sure everyone feels included and welcomed and safe in outdoor spaces. And I definitely hope that we will continue those conversations in 2021. I know Bayou Land Conservancy wants to be a part of that solution on the Spring Creek Nature Trail, but I think it's one of the most significant and impactful conversations around wildlife and around conservation that took place in 2020. So deserves a high spot on the list. And then the number 1 wildlife story out of 2020 is wildlife trafficking and the coronavirus. So the more it is studied, the genesis of COVID-19 and coronavirus, the more solid it seems to be that wildlife trafficking had played a significant role in introducing the virus to a human population. So right now, the prevailing theory seems to be that it started in bats, and then there was an intermediary wildlife medium that was then consumed by humans. And what I've seen most recently attributed to that being that medium, that intermediary, is the pangolin, which is the most trafficked animal in Southeast Asia and usually tops the list of most trafficked animal in the world. So this is certainly not the first time a zoonotic disease starts with in animals has made its way to humans through illegal wildlife trafficking and wildlife trading. Luckily, the governments of China and other high-risk wildlife trafficking areas like Vietnam have cracked down, have given pangolins the highest level of protection possible. And we're starting to take a really hard look at those markets and understand that cracking down on wildlife trafficking. Nature nerds, and welcome back to Ask an Ecologist. I just got cut off by my internet, which is, a very 2020 way to end our videos. But I want to jump right back into what I was saying, which is the number 1 wildlife story is going to be the coronavirus and wildlife trafficking and how that has impacted wildlife trading and the general policies and procedures associated with that in some really high-risk governments that have been pushed in that direction for a long time, but have finally made those policies enacted. And so I think the great hope here is that those policies will remain in place after 2020 into 2021. And I think it's shown us that ending wildlife trafficking isn't just about saving endangered species, it has a huge impact on human quality of life and on making our world a lot safer. So I hope that we'll see more bright minds flocking, pardon the pun, to that problem and solving it in 2021. Now, lastly, I wanted to end by first thanking all of you for tuning in to Ask an Ecologist for all these months that it's been around. It has been a real joy for me and for all of us at Bayou Land Conservancy to hear from you. It also is a surprising amount of work to produce these videos each week, even though we're running a low-tech operation. So if you've tuned in to Ask an Ecologist and you have enjoyed it, if you've asked a question, or if you've just been, lurking around the internet and have happened to click on the video, we would really appreciate your support at Bayou Land Conservancy for the end of the year. We're trying to meet fundraising goals, which have been really tough in 2020, and I know it's been tough on everyone, but if you are able to make a gift, no matter how small, to Bayou Land Conservancy at the end of the year, we would really appreciate it, and we hope that we are able to bring you more content in 2021. I don't exactly know how Ask an Ecologist will look in the next year. Maybe it'll be monthly. I'm not really sure yet, but I hope that I will get to continue these chats with you in some form or fashion in the new year. So thanks all of you again for tuning in. It's been a real pleasure, and I will see you in the next year. In the meantime, stay wild.